Good morning, good evening. Hello, everyone out there. It is the live chat for Wednesday, February 11th, 2026. We have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to talk about. Wow. What a week it has been. We have experienced a lot of interesting social media drama because yours truly has been really pushing the envelope on digital meteorology. I have been taking my stance as chairman of the CDM very, very seriously, having open conversations with a lot of people. We're going to have a lot of chat about that, and in fact, I put in a poll that definitely you guys check it out on X. Just kind of get an idea: do people want something done about the quality of information that's out there with digital meteorology? Um, and part of this that I'm going to talk about, and this all revolves around everything with the storm threat that people were freaking out about. Um, so this all comes together. So just follow me along on this little journey. Um, I I do not believe, nor do I want to go around and police people on what they can and can't post. Okay, I have no interest in that. I don't believe in that. I don't want to be associated with that. But in terms of when you are a meteorologist and you're certified, yeah, you should have a standard, and that is generally what I am focused on. That individuals who have taken an oath to have a certain standard meet that standard, right? And that is the conversations that we're having first and foremost. I also am curious, how many of you even know that the American Meteorological Society even has certifications? How many of you guys know that? Do you know that your TV meteorologist most likely has a CBM, a certified broadcast meteorologist? So I'm really curious about that. So that's probably going to be the next question I'm going to be asking out. So I'm going to be asking these polls out because I need to gather data to make my case that the AMS it needs to be a little bit more, needs to talk to you guys, right? Everyone knows in the science field and all that stuff. Obviously, if you join the AMS, you know what it's about, right? But what about you that's out there? It's just a normal person out there, just wants to get some good quality weather information because they wanted to plan a party or something of that nature. Um, who can they really trust? And do you even know that there are certifications? So expect me to ask those questions as we go forward, especially as the weather gets a little bit more quiet and we are dealing with major winter storms. But this discussion is really, 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 really freaking important. Why? We've been talking about this for, I don't know, 15, 20 years, about a lot of individuals going out there posting a lot of ridiculous nonsense. Now, here's the bottom line. Here's the truth. None of this changes without you. You guys, right? You decide who to follow. Now, you're in here watching this with me right now. Oops, sorry. You're watching me. You come into this chat because you trust me. And I strongly appreciate that. Okay, I really, really do. I mean, I literally get to live my dream. You guys out there on Twitch, X, YouTube, uh, Facebook, you decide that, hey, you are good enough that I trust you, and I appreciate that, and I take that very seriously. Which is why when I produce a forecast, I don't just do it, just haphazardly, right? Now, as much as I seriously, there are times where I just want to like walk up to some of these people and slap them in the face for posting a 15 days snow map, or for cherry picking only the model that produces the most snow that will impact them, or using a model improperly, like using the average, uh, the snow map average of the ensemble guidance to determine whether a storm's happening. This factor happens for one or two reasons. One, you don't know what you're doing, or two, you're looking for whatever wish cast you're hoping for. Now, again, if you're like a 15-year-old, I don't have any problem with it. It's annoying, but I don't have a problem with it. Why don't I have a problem with it? Because if we're going to be completely honest, if I was 15 years old in 1995, I know, very, very long time ago, or in the 90s, right? And I had the opportunity to look at all this model guides, I would be super amped and trying to figure things out and posting all sorts of stuff. I know this because I would be 15 years old. Teenagers or individual like that, they're going to do that stuff. So there's no point, a lot of the people that post a lot of the stuff, what are they doing here? You have to understand, they're doing it for money. They're scaring you to make sure that you've hit their content so they make more money. That's what Ryan Hall does. That's what, Max Velocity does, right? They have all these views. Why? Because they're trying to scare the hell out of you. That's why. It's easy to do a national coverage of weather when you cover half the country in red, right? Oh, everyone's going to get hit with the worst storm ever every other week. So at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is the only way that we're going to clean up digital meteorology is if the general public, that's you guys, actually fix it. So where do we get our weather information from? And this takes me to this week, where one station that I grew up with, WFAN, has an individual on there for whatever reason. Maybe they love weather. I don't know. But they're always, they went out there the other morning saying, oh, we're going to have a blizzard. And we're going to have multiple feet of snow. And no. Now, here's the thing, right? As someone who is a radio personality with the ability to reach hundreds of thousands of people, you have to take responsibility. You're not like Joe Schmo in their basement who has like 15 followers. You are in a new situation here where people are coming to you for information. That may be sports, that may be what's going on with traffic. And of course, naturally, I get 50,000 emails about the fact we're having this massive blizzard apparently on Sunday. And I'm sitting there like, what the hell are you talking about? There's no blizzard. This isn't a winter storm pattern. And most meteorologists recognize that. Why do we know that it's not a winter storm pattern? Well, let's take a look at it, shall we? This is the pattern we have right now. And hold it, let me fix this. That way you could see there we go, good. Okay, so here's the pattern now. This isn't because I don't like snow. This isn't because I'm arrogant. It isn't because I hate you or any other nonsense. It's because I know what I'm looking at here. And if there's anyone who'd want snow, it would be me because I make more money. I mean, let's be honest, that's true. I'm not going to get 50 snowplow guys to subscribe to me when it's sunny and 52. We all know this. But I also know they're not going to come back if I keep on screaming snowstorm and it doesn't snow. Now will I? Right? Let's be honest, right? So this pattern is in no way, shape, or form a winter storm pattern. Your ridge axis is in the plains. You have no high latitude blocking in the Atlantic. It's getting displaced eastward. You have a deep trough in the western United States that's positively tilted. You have a shortwave that has to catch up to it that has no way of amplifying southward. That has never changed. This has been the same pattern going forward since Monday. So the reason why I said we're not seeing a winter storm here is not because I'm arrogant. Sometimes I am. I mean, look, that's fine. That's why my wife puts me in my place, right, hon? There you go. See, I'm not being mean to the person who loves snow. I'm not trying to say you're an idiot. No, I'm saying the pattern doesn't exist here. It just doesn't, no matter how much you want to wish it. So when you saw the model guidance, right? There's a lot of ideas like models are going to trend and this and that. And a lot of good points were made about, well, how can you be so sure if we don't have the sampling yet of the shortwave? And that is a valid question for when you have a pattern that's favorable. For example, if I had a large ridge over Greenland and a deep trough here, I mean, like a powerful ridge, and I didn't have a screaming Pacific jet driving into the into British Columbia, and I had this trough more cut off as an upper level low, and I had more of a trough out here, and generally, basically, the whole pattern change. Like if you had everything about this pattern change to where I had a big ridge here out west, I just had to wait for the short waves to dive into from the ridge out here and maybe a short wave out here trying to capture it. Then then I have to wait for sampling because you have a favorable pattern, you have just timing issues, and you got to figure out the timing issues. This isn't a timing issue question. This is basically I have to change the whole freaking pattern. You have to change everything. So anyone who's trying to wish cast this into some sort of reality, you have to change the whole pattern. So when I saw this pattern from the get-go, I said to me, too much has to go right. You have to have everything timed perfectly, phase perfectly to A, keep the cold air in place, B, keep this storm to slow down, C, not allow anything to kick it eastward, D, not to over amplify the storm to drive more warm air into the coast and just produce an interior snowfall, if that. And then finally, E, you have to have it happen at the right time because you're losing your cold air source. That's 5 things I have to line up perfectly. That's why you don't forecast for a major winter storm. Because if one of those 5 things don't work out, then your whole forecast collapses. And you never want to be in that position. Now, one person said to me, hey, you never want to make a declaration 120 hours out. And that's true when you have a pattern that is favorable overall. When you don't have anything, it's like saying, hey, Stephen, you shouldn't make a forecast that it won't rain 120 hours out. Why are you doing that? Why? Because there's a big freaking ridge over New Jersey. And that ain't changing. That's why. So it's not about models, guys. It's not about uh, picking which model you like and going with it. I only had a little bit of coffee and I'm ready to go. Okay. It's not about model trends. It's not about uh, waiting for sampling. It's about pattern recognition and understanding what you're working with. And what you're working with is a progressive pattern. Now, in the world, is there a scenario where you get a perfect phase? Sure, there is that world. But the problem with that world is that you'd have to fundamentally change the polar jet stream here. So this is why when we look at the model guidance here, and I'm going to show you several, so that way it's not just a European. Okay, the European. Let's pull up the 0Z that produced our big winter storm, and I'm going to point out exactly what you. So that way you can look for it when you're looking at this, because I know you'll go to Tropical Tidbits, which is a great website, and you'll be able to look at it. Okay, so here's the problem that I knew was going to be an error. This feature right here, it drops southward. Why doesn't this work? Well, Look to the west. Trough building in, driving into California, flat ridge, no amplification at all. No amplification at all through this time period. Why is that a problem? If there's no amplification, this shouldn't dive south. That's the first error. And in meteorology, it's not about model trends. It's about picking out these small little details. And physics matters. Mathematics matters. This is why when you ask someone if they're a meteorologist, it's not just someone who follows the weather. It's someone who has taken these math courses, taken the dynamic meteorology, taking the synoptic meteorology and looking at these factors and pointing this stuff out and saying, this is BS, throw it out, or this makes sense, keep it. So this right here should have been a huge warning sign. Very progressive. This trough is pushing in. This ridge is pushing in. So if this is pushing in this way, there's no way this has any time to dig, and this is not likely going to be able to go into a negative tilt. So this is an error. Throw it out. What did the 12Z guidance do? The 12Z guidance basically has the same pattern, but recognizes this ridge is flat and doesn't allow any phase. So everything just marches due east. It's too flat. In order to change this pattern, this ridge has to be here and far more amplified. This can't exist up here, this flatness, because you have a deep trough around the Yukon. It doesn't work, no matter how much someone wants to wish it. How about the European AI? Now, the AI has done an excellent job on this. Let's give credit where credit is due. The AI has done a great job on this because it recognized this error immediately. That's been the difference between the AI and the operational. It recognizes there's no way you can get any type of phase. Hey, and let's also give a little bit of love to the GFS. Yes, the GFS. I know. I know. You know, guys, I don't like you. I have no love affair with the GFS. You guys all know that. It recognizes the same issue. It's a little bit too flat, but it works. And you can pick up any other model guidance you want. Heck, you want to see the icon? Let's look at the icon. Icon does the same thing. So again, this isn't about, I want to make this very clear. This isn't about model trends, model shifting, northwest trend, all that other stuff. That's all wives' tales BS. The issue is that the pattern overall just doesn't work. There's no way, and physically, there's no way to lift this northward because this short wave is just, everything's too progressive. Everything's moving east. So whenever you don't have that ridge, whenever you don't have this setup, it's not because I'm trying to be mean. It's not because I'm being arrogant. It's because I am clearly seeing this ain't the pattern, guys. This ain't it. It ain't. It's no matter how much anyone wants to wish it or curse me off or threaten me. I had people sending threats to me, which isn't out of the norm. It's what I typically see. But threatening me, yeah. I had one guy saying, "I'm going to find you and shoot you." Why? Because I control the weather. Which is not at all how that works. Right? But it's not the first time we've dealt with that, right? No. No. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's going to change things because I control everything, right? I purposely screwed with your week because you wanted 10 feet of snow. That's how it works. So, it's just a matter of understanding what the pattern is, guys, and that's pretty much it. And in order to change this, you'd have to fundamentally change everything. So that's why when I saw this pattern, I was like, nah, this ain't a winter storm pattern. If you pull off a winter storm, you'd have to have, and I've seen this once, and it worked once, and it's not the Boxer. I saw some people mention the Boxer Day Blizzard. The Boxer Day Blizzard, which I was on, and I was ahead of everybody else on. Okay, I have a documented proof. It's on the YouTube channel. I was ahead of that, ahead of everybody on that. And the reason why was not because of a perfect phase, it's because the pattern supported it. You had a large ridge in the west, you just had to wait for the disturbances. So any comparisons to the Boxer Day blizzard doesn't work. It just doesn't work because it's not even remotely the same pattern. You had a high latitude blocking, a big ridge in the west. The only thing that we weren't sure about was the speed of the Arctic shortwave to catch the polar and subtropical shortwave at that time to produce a major storm. And by the way, in that scenario, that wasn't perfect either because anyone who's in Southeast PA, when you say Boxer Day blizzard, they're like, what blizzard? We had nothing because the phasing and setup was so precise and so perfect. It only focused in central New Jersey coast and New York City. You got a glancing blow in Philadelphia and barely anything in southeastern Pennsylvania. Believe me, I heard them. Trust me. Okay. So even that in a perfect scenario or perfect phase within a good pattern, even that you didn't have perfect results. Right? So it's not the same pattern. Now I went on that rant. Now what about the rest of winter? All right. Well, this isn't going to be the best news for you guys. I'm going to be honest with you. We're seeing a lot of changes in the tropical forcing. Hey, we finally got negative contributions. This February was supposed to be about the MJO marching across to phase 8, 1, 2, and eventually getting to 3. Well, lot egg on our face, all our faces, okay? That failed royally. All the model guidance failed, I failed, everything failed. And the reason why it all failed was that the MJO sniffed out 8 and then ran away and moved into a neutral state and just remained very, very weak. Now, I was concerned that the MJO would remain weak, but I didn't think it'd remain this weak, where basically it's just kind of meandering around a neutral state. And most of the model guidance keeps up that theme. Some model guidance even pushes into phase 3 and 4. So what's really going on here? Well, we know that there's a lot of changes going on in the Pacific. Lot of changes going from La Nina to El Nino. So there's a lot of muted, muddled noise going on out there in the tropics. But really, it comes down to tropical forcing. Okay, I'll make this very simple. Thunderstorms are forming around 170 and 165 west to the south of Hawaii, not much around the date line. And so, without the convection around the date line, you don't have the right trough and ridge axis evolution. This is why in Costa and Mussolini, okay, and all their research, they point to the convection around the date line. And this is how this works. Convection grows, it develops, it produces latent heat release, it enhances the base troughs, the base of the troughs that are passing through in the polar and subtropical jet stream. The enhancement works its way down towards North America. And what happens in North America is that you get enhanced ridges and troughs. With the convection on the date line, it sets up the trough axis more around the Mississippi River Valley to the Tennessee River Valley. You get a negatively tilted trough. Boom, there's your winter storm. That's why convection is so important around the date line. And that is true during La Nina, El Nino, and La Nada. Okay? All three scenarios. So in this scenario, we didn't get the convection we needed. And so February is going to underperform. Okay? That's the reality of the situation. Now, is winter over and dead? Well, we still have plenty of disruption around the polar vortex here. And the polar vortex is going to remain weak. Excuse me. Good coffee, though. But the evolution of our polar vortex, although weakening, is focused more towards Asia. So, what does this mean for you and me? It looks like to me is that we're going to still see phases of polar air masses trying to get into the eastern United States. And I would not sleep on a negative NAO regime returning in early March, and let's say the last few days of February and early March. So I'm not laying back and just saying winter's over. Some mischief is possible, okay, but this setup is far less favorable. So I can't say that we're done with the worst of the worst in terms of the Arctic air, in my opinion. We're pretty much done with that. Now it's a question of pretty much seasonal or slightly below. That's pretty much where we're at right now. Um, Honestly, I wouldn't mind if there's a trough in the West because God knows they need it. They need the snow, or else they're gonna have some serious drought problems out there in California and the Rockies. It's gonna be a mess. Um, so that's a real concern out there. But in terms of the blockbuster Miller A Storm, that's dead. Okay. The reason why that's dead is that we don't have the MJO phase for it in any way, shape, or form. We don't have the tropical forcing for it. We have an increasingly more robust subtropical jet stream, but not robust enough. And we still have some La Nina like influences in the weather pattern. So I definitely expect this pattern to feature a little bit more ridging as we go forward over the southeast. So I'd keep an eye on some Miller B Clipper type scenarios, especially towards the end of the month and early February. But in terms of the big blockbuster storm, no. 2 to 4, 3 to 6 inch type snowfall, especially north and west of the I 95 corridor. I could see that. Not guaranteeing it, I could see it. Major heavy snowfall on the I 95 corridor. Each passing day makes that less and less likely, especially with a rising sun angle, especially as we get into March, and also with the changes of the type of air masses we're dealing with. We're not dealing with pure Arctic air anymore. Okay, that regime is coming to an end. Now we're dealing with modified polar air masses. And don't be surprised we start getting a lot of fog around here too with all this melting snowpack, which is basically a chunk of ice and then snow underneath. So don't be surprised by that. But this pattern, and let me be very clear about this pattern is not a winter storm, major winter storm pattern. This is a pattern that can have a little trick to it, maybe a little bit of a clipper or two with a little Miller B development, stuff like that. But in terms of blockbuster, 6 to 12, 12 to 24, all that stuff, throw that out the window. Say goodbye to that. That's not going to be in the theme going forward. And what I do see, though, is increasing potential for some pretty good rainfall events, especially as we head towards March. I do think, and definitely check out the spring forecast in the premium dashboard. But I do think we're moving away from our drought pattern, okay, especially as we establish more and more of an El Nino. So that is where we're at right now. That's my rant for tonight. Now, maybe not. I don't know. I might just go on another one. We'll see. Um, oh boy, yeah. All right, so I'm going to start hitting everything on social media. Of course, I will get the Philly weather. Awesome job. Wow, that is a hell of a little rant on his own right there. Um, but I'm definitely going to repeat that. So I'm definitely going to share that. And of course, I see you guys on YouTube as well. I see you guys, and I see you guys on X. And let's see. Marty says hi, Susan. Okay. Yep. So yeah. So let's start with all the questions we have in the live chat room, and I will answer everything I can, and um, and then we'll see where we're at. So let's see here. We got quite a few. Here we go. Uh, all right. Let's see here. Good evening, Card. Card is definitely here. Saw your write up about the polar vortex. There is a massive amount of warming at 10 millibars and still at 70 millibars. Yep, that's part of the EP flux I was just showing you. Doesn't that weigh against the polar vortex consolidating as quickly as the model suggests? See, yes and no. Yes, it argues against a strong polar vortex. Okay, and overall the forecast is for it to be weak. The problem is that the way that it's evolving, it consolidates towards the pole and it immediately gets displaced because of the warming. The problem is that it's getting displaced towards Eurasia rather than North America. So that tells me weaker waves of polar air masses move away from the Arctic idea. And the drought situation, we're not looking good still. We're improving. We're certainly much better than what people have been experiencing out west. Um, but we have to wait for the snow to melt to really get a good idea on the moisture in the soil. So we have to wait a bit on that. Currently sitting at day 26 of continuous snow cover. December and January both had an average monthly temperature below freezing. Whatever happens going forward, I am quite happy as a winter weather lover. Well, there we go. See, at least I made one person happy. Happy about that, and I make you happy. So that's what's really important. That's the most important thing. You're the only meteorologist I follow. Well, I appreciate that, Thomas. I just don't understand the death threats. That's what I don't understand. That's crazy. It's like, dude, I just forecast this stuff. I don't control it. If I did, then the Yankees would never be able to get out of their dugout because it'd be raining over them all the time. If you control the weather, then when we went to a Halloween party, it wouldn't snow. Right. Or our wedding would have been like gray, rainy, and cold. Right, right, exactly. It would have been snowy. No, just kidding. No, yeah, I mean, exactly, exactly. Same people putting on 15-day snow maps are same people who will post the annual Phantom GFS monster hurricanes 15 days out also. Exactly. And they're going to be the same ones who are going to make their TikTok videos with the spooky noise behind it, talking about Category 6 hurricane hitting Florida. Look, honestly, it's up. There's nothing I could do about that. It's on you guys. And I'm saying this as politely as I possibly can. If you don't give them attention, they die. That's the key to all this. Don't give them attention. And I can't stand when they mix political opinions in with their comments. Yeah, both sides do that. I'm usually pretty good. You know, here's the thing: when I make a post about like a storm and someone asks me about climate change or whatnot, somehow I'm either communist or I'm a fascist, depending on how that person reads my opinion on it. It's hilarious. I'm like, they're like politics, politics. I'm like, this is a Wendy's. What are you talking about? I mean, come on, give me a break here. We're talking weather here. I don't know what your issue is. Starting this Friday, which days do you think we should expect snow or ice in Morris County, and how much accumulation? Oh, this Friday. Wait a minute. Let me think about this. Not none. Zero. If anything, rain. I don't see any snow or ice at all. I'm seeing rain. I put in for so far scattered rain and snow showers, um, but I never bought the idea of a major storm at all. At least through this weekend. I mean, next early next week, not much is really going on either. Nathan says, "Snow lover here, getting a weather certificate. Listening to you, maturing as a weather enthusiast makes me understand realistically the best chance for a major winter storm is in 2027, considering the polar vortex, MJO, and the overall pattern, like you've been saying. I can't lie, I was hoping for a big one in February. Yeah, I know. I mean, going into January, there was certainly a lot of support for that. But the MJO, as I said at the very start of the winter, the MJO giveth and the MJO will taketh away. When do you see the ice on the Hudson and Long Island Sound melting away? Um, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a pretty good melt starting this weekend, to be honest with you. It's very important that the very stretched polar vortex become refocused over Eurasia, doesn't become strong during beyond this change. Otherwise, 2025-26 winter essentially is over. Yeah, for the most part, yeah. I mean, that'd definitely be true. If we end up with where the polar vortex gets very strong over Eurasia, that'd basically drive a Pacific jet right through us. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Jeff. People are deranged, Stephen. Yes, they are. If only California actually built reservoirs. Yeah, don't get me started on that. You would think a look. All I can say about the desert Southwest is that drought is not a unusual anomaly. It literally wiped out a civilization around 1199 A.D. Check it out. It's actually true history. Because the drought literally killed everyone. This is a drought type pattern that returns frequently, especially with the PDO phases. So the fact that there's a drought in the West is not shouldn't be a surprise to anyone who studies climatology out there or just basic history. For spring, do you see significant severe weather for our area? I see more rain than severe weather. I think the summer could feature more severe weather, to be honest with you, than the spring. Will it get well above normal in temperatures in the next 2 weeks? I don't know. I don't buy the well above normal. Here's the thing: stay away from well above temperatures until we warm up the coastal waters, especially with all this ice around, because the coastal waters are going to create a natural, stronger high around the Gulf of Maine and around Long Island that will tend to keep us cooler than what Mild Guidance thinks. So watch for that theme this spring. Let's see. Okay, let's see. How quick is the melt in Union? Again, probably it's going to be a little bit slower, but I think we're going to see a pretty good melt. I am concerned about flooding from anything that's blocking these drains and also the rivers with some of these ice blocks. What we don't want is a heavy rainfall event with all this ice and snow melting. That will lead to flooding. So I am slightly concerned, slightly elevated, but I don't think it's a major threat yet. And that's the other thing. Card asks the same thing about the ice jams and flooding. Do you think this drought continues to? I do think we see a change. We've been dealing with drought because we've been in La Nina patterns for like ever. Now we go more into El Nino, and if some of the guidance is right, could possibly a moderate, even maybe slight chance of a strong El Nino. And if that's the case, then that means we definitely have more rainfall on the way for the spring and summer. So I'm kind of hoping we do, to be honest with you, because we could really use it. They are allowing ice skating on lakes in Long Island. Yeah, I'd be careful about that. Yeah, same because that's why they call it a desert. Yeah, pretty much. Now let me get to this whole rant I have here on Twitch here, because holy crap, Philly weather really did a hell of a job here. You're fiery today. What a goddamn mess it's been on X. And let's be honest, on Facebook, YouTube, especially Facebook. The number of jackasses on Facebook who have no clue what in the hell they're posting. Okay. I know. It's been on X it's been on X the past few days. I mean, what the heck? It's felt like politics out there, and it's all for the dumbest reason there is a potential storm. I can't tell how many times I've seen That's stupid. It's 5 days out and it could change BS. Sorry, I'm a bit fiery today, but also because this has just been anonymously annoying. The only good that came from this week is that all the mall huggers have clearly been exposed. So that's true. Listen, physics is challenging, so it's understandable that for people not to really understand errors in model guidance. But it's hard to teach people when they are stubborn. Anyway, thanks as always. I'm really ready for spring. I've hit send a few times accidentally. I'm ready for spring. I'm ready for baseball. I'm ready, honey. I'm going to teach you everything there is to know about baseball. We're going to have a baseball clinic. We're going to learn about the different positions. We're going to do first. Yeah, well, no, I'm not talking about tonight. I mean, as we. But we have to go over the different pitch types. The curveball, the splitter. Yeah, it'll be great. I'm gonna get. I know. See, everyone now. Susan's birthday is coming up, and we are going to have a big celebration, right? And part of that celebration is I'm going to get you a giant book about everything there is to know about baseball.
Speaking of all this,
Yes.
baseball. Somebody in the comments I did notice asked if you're watching the Olympics and said that you seem like you'd be into curling, which is janitorial background.
Yes, well, I will say that curling is fun to watch. It kind of reminds me of bocce ball on ice.
I swear, most of the Olympic sports, and that one's no exception.
Uh-huh.
I swear, it started with being drunk.
Yeah, drunk bets. It
Drunk
seems like
bets,
a lot of,
drunk accidents, and somebody
yes.
survived, and
The
somebody else who's drunk had to one up them.
Yes, I could definitely see how a lot of the Winter Olympic sports start off as a drunk bet, especially like luge, right? Well,
Curling could have been a slow night on a janitorial duty.
yeah, yeah, I could definitely see that. But like, if you're throwing yourself down an icy tube, right, and you're trying to be the fastest, and you have like literally nothing really to protect you, that's gotta be a drunk bet. That's gotta be.
Yeah,
That was
ski
just a
jumping seems like a
ski
very high risk
jumping.
accident.
Right. Whereas the Summer Olympics is pretty straightforward. You're sprinting, you're boating, you're playing basketball. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Like these are sports and stuff. These are the Winter Olympics. Half the time I'm watching this stuff and I'm like, this looks like a bad idea. And then they start
Skeleton, which is like almost
skeleton.
first.
Yes, yes. I'm like looking at this. I'm like, someone's gonna die. I mean, what is this? This is crazy. So yeah, I mean, I could definitely see your point on that. Let me check out and see what we got here on YouTube land. Um, for baseball, just remember who is on first, what is on second. That sounds like my Mets team right now. Um, I would worry about the strong El Nino killing winter just yet. I'll just put that there. Let's see here. Uh,
By the way, X is being a little.
what's going on? Great job.
Some things around, I think.
Yeah. No, they moved a lot of stuff around. There's a
Some
lot.
things away, I should say.
Honestly, you might be the closest so far. Let's see, who is that? Oh, Skull. Oh, that's right. Pick, right. Yeah, I see what's going on X. I am very confident about baseball season, by the way. I am looking forward to seeing what the Mets can do.
Feed on actual see what.
Yeah, it's kind of like all over the place. Uh, yeah, it's in my profile. They shifted. They Yeah, in X they changed things once again, and now it's like now if you want to watch the video on X, you have to click on the red circle around my icon, which doesn't make any. It's like it drives me nuts. Why does every social media organization has to change stuff all the freaking time? Exactly. Just leave it alone. This is why I have my website because social media changes too much. You never know where is anything going. I've been ever since Melissa. I guess that must be a name for a storm. I've been blocking folks left and right over the wild stuff, weather stuff they post. Yeah, it's crazy. Here's the thing, and someone made a comment here. You like what Philly Weather said. You know, this storm is exposing people who are modelologists versus meteorologists, because a meteorologist should be able to pick out this pattern and know exactly what this is. Bernie Rhino is a great guy, by the way. Very nice guy, great follow. And I have no problem with my followers following other meteorologists. I would never have a problem with that. It's good to get a second opinion. It's just like a doctor. You want to have a second opinion on things. What you don't want is that here's how you know when you're following someone who isn't really trustworthy. If they have to cover half the country in one color and then another color in the other half, and then put in historic storm for every one of their posts or videos, that's how you know they're not good. Because A, you can't have a historic storm every freaking week. And B, it's not going to impact half the country. My favorite is the hurricanes where they covered the entire East Coast.
I gotta show you this.
Uh-oh. Susan has something to show me.
This is. I just saw this on X.
Okay.
Your post about your thing tonight. Look,
Absolute cinema. I love it. I'm in just a rare mood tonight. I'm just like, ah. And you know what? The whole thing is that at the end of the day, honestly, I mean, I love you guys, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to this. And it really does come down to this. There are some people who have eaten paint chips, and you can tell. You can tell. Because they come up with the wildest reasons why they want something to happen. The polar vortex is focused more towards Asia right now because of the orientation of the warming. It's more focused over Canada and Greenland, the stratospheric warming, so it's kind of kicking everything back towards that side of the globe. Let's see here. And you know, we did get a big snow. Well, hold it. If you're in Southeast PA, you probably didn't get the big snowstorm. What Southeast PA wants? Southeast, I know you guys are out there, in Central PA too. You guys want a Miller A storm. You want a weak El Nino. That's what you want. You want a Miller A storm and a weak El Nino season. You get that, Central PA, Southeast PA, you're going to be very happy next winter if that happens. And I can't answer all of these. Let's see. I'm seeing YouTube videos about yes, I actually saw this. A YouTube video about a super El Nino. The super El Nino. I just keep on thinking of Chris Farley. I am El Nino. You know, like that one. You guys ever seen that video? If you're too young to know Chris Farley, you gotta check out this video. Do a Google El Nino. And basically, you know, it is hilarious. I wonder if I could pull it up here. Let's see here. YouTube. I'm going to find this because it is just. Here it is. Okay. All right. This is. I don't know if you guys could hear it, but this look at this. Yeah, just true. But he's like, I am the Nino. It is hilarious. It is the funniest thing. Look at this guy. This is great. I love this. So I hope I don't get struck for that. But whatever, I don't care. I'm just not like I'm making media money off the feed, so it's fine. But that is just, yeah, that is just classic. You know, I am the El Nino, which means the Nino. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. So is there a super El Nino coming? Well, let's just look at the data, shall we? Let's see. Where is it? I know it's got. Here we are. All right. So, in terms of super El Nino, that's usually above 2.5. Okay, that's like really, really, really strong, right? Strong is above 1.5. Average model data is 0.5 to 1. This is weak to moderate. So 95% of the model guidance has a weak to moderate El Nino. I'd say 4% have a strong El Nino. 1% has a very strong El Nino, and 0% have a super El Nino. Now, a super El Nino, I would assume, would be the combination of El Nino plus Godzilla. What does super El Nino really mean? Well, in terms of social media land, if you want to scare people and get people to follow, you go super duper El Nino. Maybe, you know what they should try next? Super Saiyan El Nino. Huh? Huh? Now that will get a lot of views, right? All right. How about yeah, I mean, I heard about Max. I hope he does. We'll see what happens. Time will tell. Yep. So not a storm, but any wintry precipitation in central New Jersey. I don't see any. In fact, we're going to be in the 40s. Even with the snowiest solution, here, hold it. Let me show you some of the. Yeah, let me show you something here. I'm going to pull up the data. This is like some of the raw data I look at, and this is for central New Jersey. Even the snowiest solution where they had 14 inches of snow in the 0Z guidance. Again, this is the coldest model. Start off with 47, you're between 30 and 34. So snow ratio around 9-1, 10-1. And that is the coldest solution. And understand, in order for that to happen, the upper level low formed in such a way that it would create the strongest lifting to support the rain over the snow. So that should have been the first warning sign, saying like, hey, we're going to have a big winter storm, but first we're going to start off as rain. We're going to cool the atmosphere dynamically by having the most perfect phase you could possibly have. Those should have been huge alarm bells that, hey, something's fishy going on here. I don't trust it. Then the 12Z guidance and 50s. This is probably a little bit too warm. Okay, so when I look at this, probably the 0Z is going to be a little bit cooler. But you get the idea here. There's no snow here. None. None. Zero. Uh, and I'm in Michigan. Well, hello, Michigan. And someone's in Maryland. Ice fishing. Will there be ice fishing? I have no idea. I don't really know. I'll be honest, man. I don't know much about Michigan. It's a cool state. It's split in two by lakes. That's pretty cool. It's near Canada, so I'm guessing you can visit Canada pretty easily. That's pretty much what I know about Michigan. And someone's in Maryland. Do you think March and April will be warmer than normal? Not in New England. I would not be so. I honestly, until we get our water temperatures warmed up a little bit, I'd stay away from well above or even above normal from basically the northern mid Atlantic up through New England, especially along the coast. I see a lot of days where backdoor cold fronts are going to be a real pain in the neck to forecast. Bernie is awesome, indeed. There's a lot of good meteorologists out there. You just got to find them. Is it possible for the polar vortex to eventually dump into North America? Yeah, there is that possibility, right? I'm not going to say no, not at all. But understand, given where we are right now, we're in February 11th. By the time that happens, it has to go beyond the next 15 days in the forecast. So now you're talking about February 25th. So now, if you get that to happen, you're talking about early to mid March. So instead of a strong polar air mass, let's say at minus 10 degrees Celsius in early February and March in January, should I say, in January and early February, that type of temperature regime would set you up in the upper 20s to lower 30s. In mid-March, it sets you up in the mid 40s. You see what I'm saying here? The sun angle creates more of an issue. Salt prices are a pain in the neck. I agree. You want to hear about, if anyone has any leftover salt, you want to know where to make good money? Contact people in the Ohio River Valley. They are dying for some salt. I'm not going to say winter's over. And I'll say this because I've learned my lesson from something I did 10 years ago. I don't say winter's over till March 15th. And there's a really good reason why. Exactly. No, shush, please. The reason why is pretty simple. Even though the pattern becomes more and more unfavorable, you still have a weak polar vortex, which means you still have short waves that can be dynamic in the polar jet stream that can leave a bit of a surprise. Now, why after March 15th? After March 15th, the sun angle gets so much higher compared to early March that in order to get snow accumulate, not so much in the air, right, but actually accumulate on the ground, you have to have it generally in at night, and it has to be the heaviest at night. Even then, you have to be able to have that snowfall rate overcome the heat that's been stored in the pavement to actually snow on the pavement, on the roadways. So it becomes far more difficult. Now, is there that rogue rare situation in April where you can get snowfall? Yes, there is. But the key word there is rare and very difficult to pull off. Okay. So usually I like March 15th to actually exhale, right? Where I'm like, it's done, it's over. I'm walking, I'm gonna go enjoy my gym, I'm gonna go watch some baseball. We're gonna relax a little bit. We'll keep an eye on some severe events. And that's where most likely this whole chat here starts to calm down a little bit. We start to talk about weather books. We start ranting about baseball. We have a good time every Wednesday, but no, look, I'm honest. There's a lot less people here. So, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. And would you be for or against making weather models viewable only to meteorologists and those with certifications? Uh, I have two split ideas on the libertarian side of me says no. The pragmatic side of me says yes. And here's the thing. Um, I don't. It's a tricky thing because honestly, if we didn't have snow maps out, we'd reduce a lot of this nonsense out there. But then again, if you're someone in high school or college who wants to learn about this, I mean, it's access to this information is amazing. I mean,
Access paved the way for you.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, like if I say no, then how would I even be able to build my business? Right? It doesn't seem fair for me to block other people after I've made it. That's not right.
Integrity is the issue.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Integrity is the issue. That's the bottom line.
It's over, growing any integrity.
Here's the thing. There are going to be people who are going to put profits over, and it's not, not a political thing here at all. It's an ethics thing. Um, if you A lot of people say they'll post a map and they say, "Oh, it's not a forecast." And why the hell are you posting it, idiot? Like, what are you doing? It's not. Yeah, it's not a forecast because you don't know what the hell you're doing. You're doing it where you can gain attention. Now, there's some people that need attention, right? They're very insecure people and they need attention. They want to get likes and they want to get excitement. Some of it's a dopamine hit. 90% of social media is all about a dopamine hit.
Also have what in their 20s or even 30s now that they haven't known a time without social media.
Yes.
So
Yes.
the tension and constance of attention is all they know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I don't see I don't like the idea of anyone restricting information. I don't. Asking what I'm asking the general public is, look, pick your source wisely. I can only rail against it so much. I can just say, look, this is not a good idea. This isn't what should be posted. Um, Here's why. It's up to you. It really is. If you try to restrict data, the only thing you do is create a black market. That's it. You find a way to move around it. You get a VPN to try to figure out how to get away from a block. That's all you do. That's really all you do out of that. So that's not a good idea. I mean, sometimes I feel like there should be, you know, but there's people who are going to post stuff and you try to explain to them. This is like I had this past week. I guess this kid. Um, he was posting this average snow map of the ensembles, and it was basically one of the snowier versions of it. And I was trying to explain to him, you really don't want to post this and use this as any type of forecasting product. And here's why. And they had a choice. They could be like, "Oh, thank you for helping me. A actual meteorologist is reaching out to me and trying to educate me. I should take this opportunity to learn from this person so I could advance." But instead, they took it as, "Oh, you're attacking me." No, I would kill at 15, 16 years old to have an actual meteorologist tap me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, you probably want to use this way, not that way. You probably want to look at 500 millibars, not the surface maps." If I had someone at my teens telling me, "Hey, this is how you look at this stuff properly," I I would love it. I'd be excited about it. But there's some people who just aren't ready for that.
What's sad is that's not unique to your situation. I've seen
No.
other things like that online. Somebody who knows a little more tries to give pointers to somebody who's starting out.
Right.
Everybody piles on the experienced person like they're attacking, which
Right.
they're
Like
not.
like it's I'm not trying to attack anyone. I don't want to see anyone banned. I don't want to see anyone restricted. What I do want is some accountability and responsibility. And I don't think that's asking too much. Because, don't complain like, "Oh, these weather people don't know what they're talking about." Well, look, jackass, it's not my fault you're following Billy Bob in his basement who has no clue what the hell he's talking about. That's on you, not me. I'm just trying to explain a very complicated weather pattern, and that's all I can do. Yeah, the sun angle is definitely a major problem in March. Absolutely. Trust me. I hate March winter storms. Absolutely hate them because you cannot trust the normal QPF to 10 to 1 ratio type thing, even if it's like 29 degrees, because the influence of the sun angle just creates all sorts of havoc because the pavement just retains heat more from the previous day. So even if you have, let's say you have a scenario where you have temperatures in the 40s the day before, well, because of the sun angle, it actually retains more heat than that, than what you have in the air temperature. So when you have snow the next day, that heat is being released at the boundary layer that isn't measured by model guidance. So your model guidance comes out, and let's say you use a snow map, right? You use a model snow map and it says 3 to 6 inches. Well, you better cut that in half or more because the amount that will accumulate versus what's falling out of the sky is a completely different story. And it's just a nightmare to forecast for because some areas will have a little bit stronger lifting, so it'll get the 4 inches, and another area barely gets an inch. And it's just a freaking nightmare to verify. And next winter, I don't know yet, but it's certainly not the best combination of a moderate El Nino and westerly QBO. That's usually not a favorable combination, but we have a long way to go to piece that together. It's already past 9 o'clock. What do you know? Let me just check to see if we have any more questions over here. Yeah, I heard about Lindor. He'll be all right. He's always a slow starter anyway, so I'm not expecting any change for that. Uh, My what do we got on Twitch? Okay, final comment question. Will the QBO affect the amount of backdoor cold fronts that happen this spring? QBO has less and less of a factor as we move on through the spring. The more significant factor is the amount of colder than normal water in the Gulf of Maine and around Long Island. I think that's going to be a greater factor in March and April, not so much in May. Happy Knicks fan. That's good. Uh, any concerns with how cold the ground is that rain, especially light rain, could freeze? In this scenario, not so much because we're going to be well above freezing. There'll probably be a few slick spots, but I think that the bigger theme will be the amount of snow and ice that's melting this weekend. I don't know the water temperatures off the top of my head in Asbury, but I think they're in the 40s or 30s. They could be in the 30s. March 15th sun angle is the same as last week of September. Yep. Yeah. And it's not easy to overcome. And I'm not sure why the MJO has. That's something I'm kind of studying. I am not. I suspect there's a bit of a mountain torque situation, and also the evolution of the polar vortex, the way it shifted. I think that's kind of screwed up some of the development of the convective of the tropical convection. But I'm not 100% sure. I'm still trying to figure that out myself. And it's 9:05, so I think it is time to shut it down, get some rest. Did my rant. I feel much better, you know. That is for sure. So I'm glad about that. And look, right on that. Oh man, I got one. I got a. Let me just see here. I love it. Let's see here. I'm just curious. I just got an email. I'm just curious. Yeah, and it's done. Oh well, what are you gonna do? They're already dropping off. Now that winter's now, I'm not expecting a big blizzard. Oh well. All right. Well, at the end of the day,
Yeah, you don't like this stuff.
I know. I apparently I upset some people. I got a very very stringent email saying, "How dare you?" Interesting. So I will put it like this: at the end of the day, digital meteorology and where we go with it really comes down to you, who you decide to follow, who you decide to listen to, how you use the data that you're given. With power comes responsibility, right? Great power comes with great responsibility. That is very true. It's one of the truest. Well, I've always screwed that up. But it really does come down to you. I can rant and rave and get angry all I want, but really, you're the one who picks what information stands out the most. So, as the CDM chair, I will do what I can when I see something that is off. Um, we are keeping an eye on those who are certified, not to drive them out or rip away their certification, but to provide guidance. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to you. All I can promise is that I will do my best to tell you what I honestly think is going to happen. And for the premium members out there, you will get the information that you need, and I will explain it in such a way um, that is understandable. And that's the best I can do for you. Is that I'm always going to tell you when I don't know something, when I will know it, and how I see the pattern. You're never going to get, well, because Model X said so, or because the model data or the snow maps are trending. You're never going to get that from me. It's always going to come down to physics, dynamic meteorology, and mathematics. Am I always going to be right? No. But you'll know why I was wrong because I'm going to tell you why I was wrong and what are the possibilities. That's what a meteorologist does. Not to be perfect, but to be good. Because if you try to be perfect, that's where you get the biggest errors. So I think that's where I'll finish tonight. Um, we'll see how our event evolves. I don't think anything's going to evolve. Maybe just some showers and that's it. But I will certainly keep you posted as we get closer to this weekend. In the meantime, stay safe out there.